Welcome to Peaceful Prosperity with Oliver Manalese. I'm incredibly honored and overjoyed to have the one and only Ryan DeLaurentis. He is a husband, a dog father, he is a business owner, an investor, and he's many, many things. A visionary, an energetic leader, and man, it's working with Ryan has been just a huge, huge source of inspiration and just an opening to possibility, to potential of what we could all be capable of. So I'm really, really excited to have you here with us, Ryan, for our client spotlight.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for having me.
I shared a little bit about from a high level about who you are, but could you share with us about yourself and what you do?
After working with you, that's a little bit more of a loaded question, I guess now, because I do know a lot more about myself. But yeah, at the core, I guess, and so I'm just Ryan. I like learning and owning businesses, and that's I think really what my core. I'm really proud that I've been able to build and help other entrepreneurs do the same. But right now, majority of my businesses are in real estate. I have a lovely wife named Courtney, beautiful dog named Otis. We live in London, and yeah, I enjoy reading, long walks with Otis, and taking care of my health. I box and I play competitive table tennis
Don't play a board game against Ryan either.
and board games. Yeah, that's right.
I
That's right. That's right.
hear you're just notorious with game theory and crushing it.
Yeah, it's fun. I like finding a competitive advantage to win.
And that applies to so many areas of the things you do. And actually, how you talked about how it's kind of a loaded question, like who you are and what you do. And what I've noticed about you actually has become, I think over time, how you speak about yourself and how you introduce yourself actually becomes more and more about I'm Ryan. I like creating and learning and reading and playing these games. Like it's just very different than the energy of how most of the time we start with this is what I do.
Yeah,
Like
no,
who I am is what I do. And you're
and
like,
what I've accomplished, right? So you define who you are by how many properties you have, or how many businesses you have, or what goals you did or didn't achieve. And it can be self-deflating if you're not in a position where you feel like you want to be, as opposed to just who you are as a person.
mm, yeah, who you are as a person. And you know what? I think that leads me into one of my first questions here. This whole idea of, I think you and I come from the real estate investing world, that background,
Yeah.
and like you said, so much of the dialogue, especially when meeting new people at an event or just networking in general, the first thing you hear is I this many deals and this much capital raise and I think it's great. It's worth acknowledging and celebrating because it takes a lot of work to be able to accomplish those things. And I think for a lot of people, even saying that out loud to really own it could be a breakthrough in itself, as opposed to
That's
kind of
true.
like hiding behind or like making it small, even. But then I think it comes to a point where I believe when we first met, it was just like, well, what's it all for? I'm just gonna do more deals. Like what? Like can you
I was the
share? Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as a lot of those people. I defined who I was by the success that I was trying to create. And now when I meet people at those same events and that exact profile you were just talking about, I'm like, yeah, that's fine that you have those things, but like, who is who is Sarah as a person? Or like, who is, you know, Mike as a person? Like, I want to know the person behind the success more than I want to know about the success. But yeah, for me, I was in the same boat. I felt like I was accomplishing a lot in my early, business ownership, real estate investing career, but wasn't really getting a lot of fulfillment from that. And the business was hockey sticking, and we were growing really quickly. but it still wasn't bringing that level of, am I achieving a higher purpose? And to be honest, I felt quite um, chaotic and not very grounded. So I felt like I kept wanting more and setting all these really aggressive goals for myself that if I didn't hit would make me feel like shit. Right? Plain and simple. I would feel like shit if I had all these goals. So like, yeah, I want to buy 20 rentals this year. And I would buy six. And I would be like, well, I fucked up. Why didn't I get the other 14 as opposed to, looking at it from an alternative lens that I probably would now. But yeah, back then it was, I didn't feel like I had alignment on what I felt like I meant to do. And I felt very chaotic that I was just chasing the next goal without being rooted and grounded in why I want those things or why they're important to me.
Yeah, it's I think that's what well the first part that kind of stands out just for this at this moment for me is your business was hockey sticking. Like things were growing at such a rapid pace and you were succeeding. And so it's so interesting that I think maybe the perspective sometimes is I will get outside support from a coach or a mentor or a guide when things are falling apart, when I'm broken or
Mm.
I've hit a wall, or I'm at the bottom or something. But really, it's I think it provides a lot of value in those moments for sure. But from where you were at, it was a different kind of problem. It was no, I am hitting these targets and we are growing at this beautiful level, but at another level, what's the point? I'm setting these goals and there's no why behind it anymore. And I think that's kind of one of the first conversations that we had, I think on Facebook Messenger, was about like, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm setting all these big goals, but like I really
And
don't have a purpose behind them.
no, and Courtney and I decided together to move out here to London to start our business, leaving behind all our family and friends and hobbies and everything that we had back in the GTA for the business. And the result was the business was succeeding, but I think everything else in my own personal life wasn't. And I didn't have a lot of friends. And I still am working on, attracting people to me here in a new city, right? So COVID probably played into that a little bit, not being able to connect as much with other people, but as someone who really enjoys being competitive and playing sports and connecting with other people, I was missing that. So even though the business was succeeding, I didn't feel very fulfilled in those other areas of my life. And I think that's what attracted me to you is that I think, in working with you, you're not just looking at how do you grow your business by this. It's like, how do we understand who the person is so that I gain a better understanding of who I am to know if what I'm doing is even matching what I ultimately want to do. So I really do feel like you gave me a more well-rounded perspective of the gaps. And I think just seeing myself now and how much more rooted and grounded I am now in having those other things that complete who Ryan is, it makes each day feel more full as opposed to just sacrificing everything for one piece of the pie.
Wow. Yeah, I would say that that's a common occurrence as a young entrepreneur, as a entrepreneur just starting out. Go all in, right? Like you bet on yourself, you go all in, you stay super focused, and that produces that result that you're after, right? Like, oh, this is something now. Like I could actually survive, and now I could actually thrive with this thing that I've created. But along the way, sometimes what can happen is all those other areas start to fall by the wayside. There's less attention, less energy put into having a hobby, other relationships, doing things just for fun, and not just constantly like I'm
That's
only
right.
reading books to get better. I'm only going to events that are self-improvement, that are business networking, and it's constantly revolving around trying to get somewhere as opposed to really finding a way to just to be here, to like be to really enjoy, right? Because I think what we practice, we get good at. So if we're constantly practicing, this is not enough, I got to get over to the next thing. You do that for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever that next thing is, as soon as that becomes this moment, you're already on the next thing. You
That's
don't
right.
get to enjoy, you don't get to feel satisfied with, wow, all that hard work produced this incredible reward at the end.
Yeah, one of the first exercises we did, you asked me who I felt I had a duty to. And there were all like, I had like 30 different people, businesses, acquaintances, family, friends, but I didn't include myself on there, right? So it would, and it was glaringly apparent when we did that because I wasn't prioritizing time for me and time for hobbies and time for friends and time for connecting. It was just everyone else.
Man, yeah. Um, can you share with us what would you say through that time? Because we worked together for a nice, a good chunk of time, and it was beautiful to see how you've evolved over that time. And I specifically even remember moments where you're like, this person said, like, this person said, like,
Yeah.
I seem different, I seem calmer. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of accomplishments and wins and breakthrough moments stand out to you when you look at that the entire journey?
Yeah, no, there's quite a few. And it's I would say it's probably an injustice even to pinpoint a few because I feel like each time we chatted there was a bigger takeaway. But yeah, to just be like fully open and vulnerable, I've had a really hard time with my own body over the years and my own self-image as an owner, as someone that people might look up to or at least whether it's my staff or other people I'm connected to in the community. And I've never had a good self impression of myself and of my body, and something I've always struggled with. And so, we kind of found that out early on. And interestingly enough, at the same time, I had a trainer I was working with. And I come from a background where I used to, weigh close to 300 pounds, and I gained a lot of weight after university and injuring my knee a couple times. And so I was on this path sort of trending down, but then I really started to get stuck and hovering and not moving. And so I'd been working with a trainer, and the trainer said, Ryan, you have so much background in fitness. Like you've been through different programs and you've been through different things. Like I think 90% of your journey towards getting to your goal is mental, and like 10% is the actual execution and the physical aspect. And so I think we did that exercise of writing that fuck you letter to my body for all the things that I wanted to make it wrong for. And I just
That's
felt like I
right.
got a really good inner dialogue release that allowed me mentally to have probably moved to a state of indifference from hate. But that actually started allowing me to um, release weight and feel like things were moving in the right direction. So I know early on, for me personally, that was a big takeaway in moving to a place of actually appreciating my body rather than hating it, because I think there was a lot of bleed over into other aspects of my life once I got that relationship in a better spot. Yeah. But anyway, that's a little bit for me personally.
How do
But yeah,
you, well,
there's
before, yeah,
been
before you move on,
yeah.
you're a leader, people look to you for your example, you share your progress, your accomplishments in the business world, and some of this work clearly helped redefine your relationship with your body,
Yeah.
from hating it to being indifferent to starting to appreciate it. It's interesting that there's actually a scale, right? We think we're going to get all the way to like hate it to love
Love.
it. It's like,
I'm
no, there's
I'm
a
not, and
grading.
I don't think I'm at love yet. It's still a work in progress, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm definitely at more of an appreciate.
Mm. And I've shared with you that I was in a process where I lost 40 pounds, right? Like, and being overweight for my body, and during that time in my life, actually it played a big role in me just growing myself and actually becoming the who I've become in terms of the work that I do. So like I'm curious, how would you connect my relationship with my body and going from hating it to indifferent to appreciating it. And that actually helped release weight. How do you think that connects to your work and you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and those results?
Hmm. No, it's a great question. I think most people just gain a level of confidence when they feel confident in their own skin. And, for me personally, again, even though the business was on this journey hockey sticking, I was having a lot of anxiety and panic attacks. And I know I talked to you about that when we first met as well, and even still had a couple after we met because I think I was still suffering a lot of the, aftermath stress. And I think once I got that relationship realigned with my own body, I felt like those things weren't happening as frequently, and they don't happen at all anymore, which is great. But yeah, so I think, in terms of how that kind of relates over, sometimes we just need to, release and sort of surrender to the process and allow things to come to us. And so I think, for part of that, I was probably forcing a lot of things because I had this image of what I wanted my body to look like or to be like. And I don't think I was trusting enough in the process and the journey to getting there. And I think that is probably more of what has translated into all other areas. I would have a goal of like lose this amount of weight this year. If I didn't do that, I would feel like shit, as opposed to, trying to get my body in like peak physical performance, or a goal of just self like improving my own physical health. Right. And that doesn't have a defined end goal. That's more of like, am I doing that today? Did I do that yesterday? Am I doing that tomorrow? And it's more about that long-term journey, because if we get fixated on what we want that end goal to be, we might not be able to control whether our bodies are ready to release 5 pounds one week or zero for the next four, right? It's not within our control. And yet we set these goals and then define our own self-worth, whether we're able to achieve them or not. And the goal started out as something we made up anyway. It was just like, it wasn't someone handed this down from God being like, you
This
need
is
to
the
weigh,
right thing to do. This is a
this is the
commandment.
right thing to do, and you need to weigh this. No, we conjure this up ourselves and create this self-image, put all this pressure and undue stress to hit this target for what? Right? It's like, did you enjoy the process along the way? And I think that is more of what I've taken out of that particular aspect that's been relatable to other areas, is learning to be okay with taking things as they come and not being so fixated on the end goal.
And in case you missed it, listening to Ryan speak about weight, he used the word release multiple times, releasing the weight. A big part of this work is about the relationship that we have with our reality. And part of that reality is our body. And how we find out what our relationship is how we connect with it through how our inner dialogue is. And so when we say we're trying to lose weight versus release weight, there's just a completely different impact on how you approach that. And yeah, I think it's clear, right? Like you're in this place where it's like, what can my body do now? Like, what could I accomplish in boxing, in table tennis, in, like, and all of those things start to translate to, right, well, I'm just like learning to feel good, be stronger, get
Yeah,
better, and
yeah.
and releasing the weight is a side effect. I'm not trying, the aim isn't I'm trying to lose weight. I'm realizing that it's the side effect of all of these other things. um or are there any other highlights, accomplishments that stand out for you?
Um, yeah, there's a lot. I'm trying to think about what would be some of the bigger takeaways. I think we went through some exercises to kind of discover more about who I was and how I interact with people and how I show up. And I think to your point earlier, that was some of the feedback that I started to garner from other people, that I was interesting. Okay, that's how they interact with Ryan, right? Those are the emotions that I evoke. Yeah, oh, those are the things that I'm already always listening for. And so I think what I was able to discover with you is more about um, who Ryan is when he's with somebody else. And then even further to that, what are the gifts that I have or the unique skills that I have that aren't always apparent to us because they're so obvious to us. And for me personally, I think I discovered that the way that I can work with words and the people and the things that I'm listening for. I listen for vocabulary and I really like to read and I like playing with words when it comes to marketing. And I think that's why, my business has been successful because I've been able to take that and apply it without even knowing that that's something that's unique to me. And until we started to do that work together and I started to collect some of that feedback from other people, it was like, oh, yeah, Ryan is good with words. Yeah, if he wasn't doing this, he should be in advertising. Or so you hear these feedback, but sometimes it's hard to connect it to really determine, well, what does that mean? And is there a skill there that I have that's tangible that I don't give myself credit for that could be used or a gift to someone else?
Oh man, that is so good. It's I think there's a disconnect between how we see ourselves and then how we land for other people,
That's right.
right? Like how people experience us. And when you do those types of exercises like you went through, you start to realize, oh, this is how I'm received. This is how I'm perceived. This is work for others, but for me, it's play. If I look into there, maybe that's closer to my greatest strengths, my gifts. Maybe that's the highest value that I can deliver in the work that I do. But because it's so obvious to me, before asking this type of question, it was invisible. And so it's so beautiful that you can hone in on that. Um, what about aha moments? I know you've shared a bunch, but what would you say are some other aha moments or insights that still stick with you to this day?
One of the quotes that I think you mentioned, and I don't know if this was yours or someone else's, so I'm trying to not give credit where credit's due, but you said on the opposite side of a breakdown is a breakthrough. And yeah, for me and my journey and in my business and other areas of my life, there have been breakdowns along the way, and more recently last year, a lot of significant ones. And I appreciate that I think you were able to help me see that sometimes that's just the natural journey for an entrepreneur and a business owner, that sometimes you need to be to have breakdowns in order to have that next breakthrough. And we're actually, to be honest, in the process of going through that right now as I talk to you today. Um, in DCI and the brokerage we have into what that's going to look like moving forward. And I feel like right now we're going through a bit of a breakdown, but everyone I think is really on board and excited for what that'll look like on the other side. And so I think in the past I was less open to um, encountering or experiencing those breakdowns. And so I was always looking for ways around it or to avoid it or to action out of it, as opposed to just being okay that that might be the natural course that takes us to this next step. So that's yeah. So that one quote I know stuck out, but I think within that there's a being open to receiving of kind of what comes, and again that whole not being necessarily fixated on one particular goal. I think you've helped me a lot in very difficult conversations with people that I've had, in getting to the root of the issue and really learning how to ask questions. I've been in sales for 10 years prior to starting this business. And I thought previously that I was a good salesperson, but I think learning through you how to ask questions in a different way and how to frame things has made me a better business owner, a better entrepreneur, a better salesperson, a better leader, because I'm more able to connect with the person that I'm sitting in front of by asking better questions.
Oh man, there's a lot that you just hit on. That's it's really really cool to hear that is one of the things that it's interesting because when I think of what some of the results were, it's not always exactly what you might experience. What the
Right.
results. I mean, not that they're not. I feel like there's certain things that are standing out to you. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. That's so cool to hear. And this whole idea of the breakdown happens before the breakthrough. It's just that if you are doing anything interesting in your life and in your business, if you are reaching high enough, you are going to encounter breakdowns. And breakdowns are, it's like a pain teacher for us to tell us, hey, you're clinging on to something and that doesn't belong to where you're going. Like you can't take that with you to where you're headed. So you got to learn to let go of that.
Let
And
go.
it creates that space for the breakthrough. And the quote that comes to mind, that's not my quote. That's just a saying, I think, for many people in this space of transformation. But there's another quote that comes up, which is, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the
Mm,
light gets through."
mm,
And then this whole idea of asking better questions, right? Like, I think we're so addicted to finding an answer, a fix, a solution. But if we get more committed to the opening, what opens us up to new conversations, new spaces of thinking, new contexts, it's those questions, right? I think questions open us up. Answers tend to narrow us. But if you start to find out what is the right question, what is a better question to ask, it could actually create an opening for something new to occur as opposed to repeating what's already been done. So that's really cool to hear that that's been big for you. What about challenges? You started to touch on, like, you're in the middle of one right now, a breakdown. What were some of the challenges that you faced along the way during this process?
um, yeah, I'm trying to, pinpoint some of the big ones. I had a major turnover, a lot of key staff in the business. It was a really major challenge. I knew it was the the right path forward for us, but that required letting go of a lot of who we were. And I think we chatted a lot about some of those tough conversations. So I think, yeah, just having your support through that, and knowing that I wasn't necessarily going through that alone, and that there was someone I could vent to, because it was causing a lot of stress and anxiety. And I was really uncomfortable. It was for a young business owner to lose some key staff. It was a really tough transition for me. But yeah, you were able to help me through that. When I brought on Randall, who's now our taking over for me as the CEO, I chatted with you about that. And yeah, just I think helping me evolve as a business owner has been really key. And you know, human behavior is one of the most unpredictable things in business. And I think, you are as close to an expert as you probably can be in human behavior. And so on the numbers, and when it comes to sales and marketing and KPIs and all that stuff, I can figure that out. But the human behavior part is really unpredictable. And I think that was the part, if anything, in the business that you were able to help guide me through. Because at the end of the day, business is just an interaction with other humans. And so I think the more clear I could get on who I was and how I was showing up for them, and the more clear I could get on the questions that I was asking them, or how I was phrasing certain conversations, I think they started to see a transition in Ryan as the owner. Um, and even Randall now has talked about, I've worked with him now for a year, and he said, you've changed a lot in the year that I've known you. And he's coming as a high level executive from a well established company that he helped build and grow and scale. And I think when he met me, I was still a little bit, he has this phrase of, he's trying to transition the business from a sprint pace to a marathon pace. And I think when he met Ryan, then I was still a little bit of a sprinter, right? I was constantly wanting to like take action and move to the next thing and do that. And I feel now that I feel more grounded and rooted, and that I can be okay taking the marathon pace, and it doesn't need to be a sprint to the finish line, because what is the finish line? Right. I think that my definition of the finish line has just changed from being like these lofty goals that we set out to like today. right? Like, what am I being more present? Like, what am I doing today? Is that moving me further ahead? Do I feel fulfilled? Am I getting that joy? And I think the reaction from people that I'm working with in my own business or in other businesses has been that I show up as a more calm, cool, collected leader that makes them more able to do their tasks and to do their work in a more efficient way than Ryan, the scrambly, sprinty, ideas all over the place, let's do everything now, that causes a lot of chaos and probably, in all honesty, led to some of those breakdowns.
There, everything that you just shared right there, I think is worth re-listening to. If you're an entrepreneur and you feel like you got to be operating at this sprint pace, constantly grinding, constantly hustling, especially if you have the story of, I can't be calm and content, then I won't progress. I won't accomplish my goals. And I think that's a huge myth that I'm committed to eradicating. That the
Mm,
more purpose and meaning and fulfillment and contentment and calmness in my life, that's going to hinder me from creating results. I'm going to be complacent. Well, contentment isn't complacent. Contentment is you have more capacity.
that's right.
You have more space. You have more bandwidth to perform, to tackle obstacles, to capitalize on opportunities. If you're stretched, if you're at your wits' end, tack on just the tiniest little new challenge or opportunity, you snap. And that's actually the thing that I think we can all succumb to. So I think it's beautiful what you just said. I think it's worth re-listening to that because there's so much we can all connect with. That said, what advice would you share for, I think maybe the best way to position it is, if you can speak to a version of you from a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, what
Mm,
advice would you give?
mm. Um, the first thing I think you've taught me that sometimes the first thing that comes to mind is usually the most raw one, and just to go with that. So the first thing that came to mind was just trust in the process. And again, as even relating to that sprint and marathon pace, I'm not a super religious person, but what I can appreciate about people that are deep in their faith, whatever that religion or faith or spirituality happens to be, for those people, there seems to be such a strong connected sense of it's coming, right? I they have an ownership of, I am doing this thing and I know that what I want is coming. It just may not be coming now. And for me, what I've kind of taken through, reading some, broadening my horizon on what I read outside of like our own sort of Western culture, do this now and do this better. Yeah, has been more relatable to that sense of surrendering and trusting in the process and allowing things to come and then being open to receiving. And so I think for me back then, I was so still in my own head and in that, we talked about this a lot, that internal clock of like, I'm racing to become a better version of myself. And the more that I've been able to transition out of that, the more that I can hear it apparent in people that I talk to, whether it be in real estate or other business owners that I'm now connected with looking to invest in their businesses. They're in the same state. They're in the same state of wanting to be a better version of themselves right now, today, and trying to put all their energy and efforts into doing that. And when I look at where I was to where I am now, I just think that creates so much unneeded stress and anxiety and pressure that it's okay for things to come in time. It's okay to trust in the process and to give yourself the freedom to, like, yeah, I'm going to take a Monday and go do this thing that I enjoy doing because I enjoy doing it for no reason, right? I think, in this real estate space and in this business space, there is such a fucking fixation on the word why. Why? And when I go and read, like, you know, um, Buddhist gurus or people in like the other side of the world, they say when you're questioning why life, it's because you're not content with your own life as it is right now. Because if you were, you wouldn't be asking why. So I think we have this huge fixation on like, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What's the reason for that? I don't know. I just want to do it. I just feel like right now, this is the thing that I want to be focused on. I think there's a degree of, yes, you want to have some type of goal, or you want to have some type of direction on like where you want to go. But I don't think it needs to be the constant fixation of self-improvement and needing to get things done now to race to a better version of who we want to become. And it's okay just being in the now and being happy and fulfilled with the thing you're doing now because you want to do it. And being unapologetic. I'm doing this because it makes me feel good doing it and I want to do it.
Preach, brother.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is what a freaking speech, man. I think there's so many great takeaways. You use the word release. Release weight instead of lose weight. You use the word receive as opposed to trying to get, trying to take, learning to receive. You use the word surrender, trust the process, as opposed to like trying to control everything. And I think like there's so many valuable insights in there for all of us to learn and relearn and integrate into our life and into our business. Um, Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that. If I can, add one further thing on you, I think, I've shared this, but I think about you a lot, and in a way that the work that we've done together, I think I'll carry for a long time, because it resonates so deeply that I hear you in my head. Right. It's like it's hard to get rid of you. You're renting space there, and it's hard to get rid of you. But it's been really beneficial for me to have that. And I think what I also appreciate about you as a coach and a mentor is from the other people that I've worked with in the past, and I've worked with a lot of different mentors, real estate space, business space. There's sometimes it feels like there's an agenda for them, that whether it be their own interest or your interest that they want to help guide you to, it often feels like the way the conversations go with other people, it's being led by their agenda. And I just want to say from you, I never felt that. Even when we were going through self-discovery, it wasn't you telling me how I should feel or you telling me um, what I'm feeling or how I should think. You were allowing me to come to those realizations, and I think just guiding me along the way. So for me, I hold those more deeply because they came from me, as opposed to coming from someone else observing from the outside. So for me personally, I really appreciated that about our work together, in that you allowed me to make those discoveries myself, and it never felt like there was a preconceived agenda from you.
Hmm. I appreciate that. I fully receive that, and thank you.
Yeah.
It to see to be a part of your journey, to walk alongside you, has been so nurturing, so nourishing for me. Even more so, starting to seeing more and more of who you are becoming now.
Mm.
This confidence and this calmness and this presence and this peace, that it just makes me feel like, okay, this is really, really, what I'm here for. This is what we intended for. We didn't know exactly how it was going to look, but this is what we were aiming for, and here it is. And so, man, I freaking celebrate you, and I love you, man. You're
Yeah, I love you too. Yeah.
so good. It's
Yeah.
so good to see. I'm so freaking proud of you.
Yeah. And, for anyone else that might be listening to this and might be thinking about, what the, pros and cons. And I did the same weighing of things when we first started. And, um, sometimes you just need to jump in and just go. And I heard you first speak at a conference in London in February, and I don't think we started working together until September or October. But even from that first talk that I heard you speak at, again, I couldn't get you out of my head. There was something there that kept resonating that, I think he's going to be able to help me get to the version of myself that I want to be able to get to. And not from a sense of I want more things, but that I want more clarity. I want more peace. I want more sense of purpose and alignment. And so I know that that message resonated with me a lot. So I'm sure that through whatever channels that you market through, or that you have this shared, and I'm more speaking to anyone that's actually watching this, talk to Oliver, give him a chance, and let him in to try and help you. Because I think if the only advice I could go back is probably I would have started sooner, because that extra 6 months while the business was growing was absolute shit for me personally, because I was ignoring all of these other aspects. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents for anyone watching this.
Start sooner.
Start sooner.
I
Okay.
think that's what you said in those first couple of weeks of working together. You're just like, can I just say I should have started sooner?
Yeah, it doesn't seem
Oh
like
man.
important work when you're constantly
Yeah.
focused on the next goal and the next thing
Yeah.
and the next thing on the to-do list. But yeah, working, people talk about working on yourself, and I don't think a lot of people really understand what that means.
Mm, yeah. Share with us what you're excited about. You're up to some really, really awesome things. And
Mm.
I would love for you to be able to share your projects, what's ahead for you, and also share with us, how we can follow you and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So, through working with Oliver, I think one of the things that I realized about myself is I really enjoy business. And it does bring me a lot of joy and fulfillment learning and working with businesses. Um, Funny enough, what I also realized about myself is I don't really like real estate. So
Yeah.
even though I happen to own a brokerage and a successful real estate investing company, and completed 40 or 50 flips, and own some rentals, I don't really like real estate. What I think I've enjoyed is building a business around real estate. And so, yeah, what's next for me is I'm going to be taking these skill sets that I've learned in building these last couple, and transitioning to investing in other businesses to help those entrepreneurs and business owners learn how to take their business from owner operated to professionally managed, and scale a business that's doing 1 to 2 million to 5 to 10 million. And that's my goal, and to help them do that without having them become the chaotic sprinter in the business, so they can work on it becoming a marathon business that they can own passively. So that's what I'm really excited about doing next. Transitioning a little bit outside of the real estate space, potentially, I think e-commerce, because of my sales and marketing background and being good with words, seems like a natural fit, at least for some of the first couple businesses I'm going to be looking into investing in outside of real estate.
And where can we find you?
Well, I'm still adapting to the social media space, so I don't have Instagram yet, but I do have Facebook, and I'm always open to having a conversation. So you can reach me by email if you want to connect and have a coffee or have a chat. It's ryan@dciproperties.ca.
Wow. Wow. Your personal email address is out there. That's an invitation. That's powerful. And man, like just the way that you declared it and the way that you are sharing, like this is what I do. This is what I do now. If you're a $1 to $2 million business, we're gonna get you to $5 to $10 million. We're gonna go from owner operated to professionally managed. This is like you freaking own it, man. This is 100% something I like. I got your back in this, man. That is I can already see the incredible reinvention that's going to be possible for these entrepreneurs that you partner with. Man, I am so excited for you,
Thank
and
you. Yeah, me too.
you look so good and you look so calm and confident. It makes me so happy. Um, Man, it means a lot that you came on here to share your story and to open up about behind the scenes, which is not always the most comfortable for leaders, for accomplished entrepreneurs. But I think it really gives us an idea of like how not alone we are and how not unique some of our problems are. Like if Ryan has experienced and overcome this, then I can too. I think that's really really important to me. So yeah, follow Ryan, email Ryan, connect with him, be on
I'm
the
working
lookout
on
for
getting
him.
some, I'm working on getting some other social media handles. So soon I'll have my first own Instagram account.
When you do that, I'll add it to the description below. Okay.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. What an honor.
thanks, Oliver.